on the legal reasons, I'm telling you that you are being recorded. So, all right. So, why did I choose this topic? This topic is actually dear to my heart because I've seen many times how simple situations can go wrong direction, and a lot of times it doesn't mean that it has to be the technical problem. It's a lot of times it's communication problem. Actually, from my experience, like 90% of time, it's usually communication problem. And this is why I was always interested in communication as an engineer. You know, like you develop something and then the customer is suddenly angry because of something and you just don't understand why he doesn't understand. And it's like this endless cycle of he doesn't understand, and you know, like you are just fighting the battle and it's just messy. So this is why I was always interested in the communication itself, and this is why I also started to take the NLP course, which is about how we influence people, how we talk to them, how to make them understand us, but also how we can understand them. And after many years of having the direct contact with the customers, I compiled the most important stuff in this presentation. Obviously, there is so much more which you can learn, but here we will focus on the best parts which I think there are. So let's talk about when is the communication crucial. Okay, so first let's talk about like what is communication. Communication is not only about talking. Communication is about listening, but also, for example, about being quiet. And this is part which I was at the beginning not good at from those who know me. And actually it's more important than you think. So this will be also part of this presentation. So let's discuss like what types of situations we need to communicate with the customer. So when there is a success, obviously this is the easiest way what we need to communicate. So when the feature goes wrong, when we publish something and everything works well, then obviously communicating this kind of news to the customer is always very nice. But then we have also, so then we have setting expectations. So when we are discussing like what will be, for example, implemented in the current sprint, or what he can expect to be developed or delivered in the future weeks, or maybe, you know, discussing if he has some idea of what he would like to have, but in reality, you know, like because of the capacity reasons, maybe there's also bugs which need to be fixed. It's not possible. So this type of stuff needs to be communicated. Then, by the way, somebody joined the call. Can please somebody be there and confirm them? I'm not sure if anyone is joined or can confirm the people which are in the call. Okay, thank you. So the harder stuff to communicate is when issues arise, right? So when the first bug comes and something is not working well, or when a customer said that he wants something this way and he got it delivered different way, and you know he paid money for it, and actually the result which he got was not satisfactory to him. But the hardest part is when we fail. So when we make a big mistake, when, for example, we implemented something, it has a huge security issue, like how do you even communicate this stuff to the customer? It's a very hard situation. And on one hand, some people have tendency to lie. So, you know, it's not such a big deal, or deflect, you know, or yes, but it was something else, and also somebody else was involved, or God forbid you start to point finger at him, that, you know, it's actually your fault that you didn't tell me that and this and that. So these are the situations which are very hard, and the hardest ones are when customer looks something like this. So that's when you know, like, okay, something's wrong and I should really fix it. So what kind of weapons do we have at our disposal, and how can we work with them? So a lot of people think that when we are communicating this kind of stuff, they will always think that, okay, so I will try to explain as logically as I can, right? So I will try to reason with the person. Oh, surely they will understand. And then we are very surprised when they don't understand, when they start to be more angry, or when they literally don't want to listen to us. And then we are like, what's going on? And then we start pushing on and try to explain again and again, and the situation just gets worse, and the situation just escalates. So the most interesting part is that we should go a little bit back and think about, like, how people think. So how do they approach these situations? Because we all obviously have the tendency to look at it from the technical perspective, right, or from the most logical perspective, but a lot of stuff is happening within us as people which is not directly logical. And this is why we have to think about the minds of people, so how they work, and and how they think. And here I would maybe ask people, at least who are here, like, what do you think? Where are the decisions made within the person? Like, is it there are two parts of each, of conscious and unconscious mind, right? Which we all have. And where do you think that the decisions are made? Come on, don't be shy.
For the married ones, by the wife's side, right?
Yes, see, there is somebody's trained here. No one wants to get. Yeah?
As you said, unconscious and conscious.
Yes.
I think the decision is made unconscious and is then argued consciously.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Okay.
So my experience is that people are trying to find logical arguments for their unconscious decisions.
Yes.
But we are thinking it's opposite around. Yeah? But I think this is the main topic.
Exactly. That's a very good point. So as Marco said, a lot of things are done in unconscious mind, and then we try to excuse or explain it through our conscious mind. And in this case, how much do you think that emotions are impacting your decisions? Nicoletta, don't be shy. So a lot? A lot?
Depends.
Yes. Sorry?
Depends on the nation. No, Spain people, German people.
Ah, okay. So Marco, he's just strictly like a decision-making robot.
But I think it's true, because it depends on maybe male, female, then this cultural topic like Spain or the Germans. And also here we are a group of engineers, which is also more rational probably. Yeah?
Okay.
So, but this is not the topic for every individual, but in a group can have tendencies. Yeah? But I think it's much more as we maybe think.
And I think that it varies obviously per person, per nation, or like how we were raised, and also on the situation. So sometimes we have the mental capacity to deal with the situation as rationally as we can, and sometimes we just don't, right? Like we had a lot of meetings during the days, or the 4 p.m. The customer calls, there is a bug on the production and needs to be fixed right away, and you are overwhelmed with emotions, and then you can start acting, right? So then let's talk about the iceberg in the room, which we have here. So this is actually how our conscious versus unconscious mind is divided. So a lot of stuff which we don't realize is actually happening in the unconscious mind. And this is very interesting because I didn't know this, but for example, right now during this presentation, right? So when I talk with you, what are you focusing on? Maybe my voice, maybe like my eyes or what I'm holding here. But overall, you are focusing on maximum maybe 7 things at a time. So your conscious mind is able to focus right now on 7, maybe 9 items per second, right? But our unconscious mind is actually processing like thousands to million inputs per each second. So if somebody would right now throw the ball at you from the side, somehow you would react. You don't know why, you are not focusing on the side, what is happening there. So the unconscious mind is making a huge difference in what you are doing right now. And here, so the conscious mind actually contains stuff like analytical thinking and logical thinking, or short-term memory, willpower, right? So we are like trying consciously influence stuff. I'm not sure if somebody wants to say something because we don't see the call. Okay. All right. So, but the unconscious mind, it's actually what also psychologists have to work with the most. So this is where your long-term memory is, right? So the hardest memories are often locked to protect you. So your mind is trying to act certain way to protect your body, but also any kind of thing which you encounter during your life is there, and it created certain patterns, certain beliefs about yourself. So there are certain things which you maybe think of yourself, like I am not good at math, right? Because when I start to ask you why, then you will be like, well, I always felt I was never good at it. And when we go deeper and deeper, maybe you will find out that it all started when you were like 7 or 8 years old, and your teacher told you, okay, Adam, you are not good at math, this is horrible, blah, blah, blah. And then this kind of belief started in your early age, and a lot of beliefs which we have inside started in very early age, and then you are reinforcing them. So the second time when you encounter something, like for example, you cannot solve some kind of problem, right? Mathematical problem, then suddenly you will get confirmation like, yes, I'm not good at math, I cannot solve this. And this kind of belief builds up, strengthens, and then you start to believe something about yourself. And this is a lot of times what psychologists are fighting with. So you need to, they are trying to break down these limited beliefs. And this is also what NLP practitioners or like coaches are trying to do, like break down these beliefs about yourself so they can actually open you to your full potential. And this kind of stuff lives deep within in you. So it's your habits, it's your beliefs, it's your emotions, it's your identity, imagination. A lot of stuff is deep under. And the problem is that this acts automatically. And yes, we can consciously try to, with our willpower, control it, right? But if we are in the strong emotion, then all the logic just goes away. We automatically act. So just like when somebody throws the ball at you, you'll just throw your emotion out on somebody. So the subconscious mind influences very easily the conscious mind, but the other way around, it's very hard. So it takes a lot of time, a lot of practice to actually go, oops, from the conscious to unconscious and break down the stuff which you have inside you. And to actually prove this, how your conscious and unconscious minds are connected, I would like you to try a little exercise. Okay, so everybody stand up. and you have to make a little bit of space between each other because you will be pointing with your hand, okay? So just don't kick down the camera. So now put your finger in front of you, look at the finger and try to turn around as far as you can, and then focus on the point which you see as far as you can. And remember that point, all right? So now you can come back. You remember that point where you were able to point out? Okay, now close your eyes, everyone. And now imagine how you are stretching your arm again, and you are turning around and going and pointing, trying to point out to that point which you saw before. Now this time you are going even further. You have to really close your eyes and you have to really imagine that point, okay? And you are going further than that point. And now, when you open your eyes, try to now get your hand out and go further than you went last time. Okay. Who was able to do it? Honestly. Who was able to go further? Okay, so you can sit down. Thank you. You can see how your belief of doing something, how your unconscious mind, how your emotions or beliefs really influence the reality, right? And so now we really established that a lot of decisions or what is possible is not done just by our conscious mind. So how does this tie then to engineering, okay? So let's go back to the communication with the customer. So why do you think after a few years of engineering we look like this? Because engineering is not only about what they were telling you. It's not only about writing that for cycle, for and then if else and whatever. It's not about solving the problem or implementing that feature, right? It's also about the people. My God, that's the toughest part, right? So you have to talk with people and understand them, and then they will tell you that they didn't mean it that way. And it's just endless cycle. So this is why we go from here to here. And it's exactly because people are in this equation. So, so how do we tackle the problems? Why is everyone so irrational? These are the questions which we ask ourselves of, or why is no one listening, right? This is something which I think that we can identify with. So a lot of times we get a task, we implement it, and then we are exactly thinking like, why is this person acting so irrationally? Why they don't understand me? Or why when I try to explain it to them, they don't listen to me? So, sorry. And for this to work with, for somebody to listen to you and to actually trust you, you need to build the thing called rapport. And so what the hell is the rapport? So it's the trust, it's respect, it's empathy, it's understanding. And this is not easy. So when you start to work with somebody, they don't know you, they don't trust you, they don't have experience with you, right? And there are many things, like we already said, that influence your decision to trust them. They influence your decision to like them or not like them or rely on them. And it's not coming only from what they are saying, because I think that more than 50% of the communication is non-verbal. So it's how you look at people, what are your gestures, and essentially what you are expressing, like your tone, even your tone of your voice changes how people are perceiving you. So it's interesting that we build easier rapport with people who are like us and the other way around. So we like people who are like us. So when they have the same gestures, similar tone of voice, they are saying similar things in a similar way. This is the easiest way how to build a rapport. And this is what you can do essentially also with your customer. So the first step really is that he needs to start trusting you, right? And the way you do this is that you will notice how the person, if they are the whole time like this, right? So they have hands like Marco, for example, here, or or differently, like Nicoletta, hands over each other. Some people like to lean forward, some people like to lean backwards, some people are excited, they are talking like this and it's awesome, and some people are like talking like this, and and you understand, and that's why you need to talk with them like this so they feel well, comfortable, and understood. So they really, this kind of stuff changes the whole flow of the conversation. So this thing called rapport you are building through whole conversation, and obviously you are also influencing it non-verbally, which we will focus more in this presentation. So what do you actually do then? When? So I know that we don't have the whole day, so let's take the most intense interaction which you can have with the customer, and that is argument, right? So when customer is angry, when you messed up, and now you need to somehow go through the conversation and hopefully not kill them, okay? So um, so first step is that they need to get their emotions out. So easy, they need to yell at you or tell you their opinion in a way they need. Then you need to listen and understand their problems. Later, make them feel heard, describe the situation from the right angle, and then agree on solution, right? Easy. Don't worry, this is not the end of the presentation. This is just the outline, which we can imagine like how the ideal situation would work, right? But the situations are not, of course, ideal. And what we are trying to do is somehow get to all these points which we have here. So first is, how do I stay quiet and not kill the person, right? So this is one of the hardest parts which you are struggling with, because if somebody is emotional, somebody is throwing their emotion on you, they're angry and they're blaming you and they're telling how you messed up this and that, then how are you supposed to now be calm, right? Like, how are you supposed to look at them, be nice? Should you smile? Should you be angry and throw the situation back? So silence here is one of the most underrated tools which you can have. Silence gives opportunity to the customer to express their emotions, to get everything from the unconscious mind out, because only then later they are able to reason, right? As we said, emotion and everything which comes from unconscious, it's much, much stronger than the conscious part. So it's good that we want to stay, that when you stay quiet. Sometimes it's very hard to stay quiet for the right amount of time, right? Like, how many times did it happen to you that you were there and the other person was blah 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 blah, and you're like, and then you thought that it's finally over, right? And that you can finally say something, and then when you said like, then they just continued and continued and continued, right? So, and then it was this awkward situation that you essentially interrupted them when they were angry or something was happening. So the best rule of thumb is that you can never stay quiet for too long. Like, sometimes it's just better to stay quiet even after they stop speaking, and you can literally express stuff with your face, with just the sound. Like, you can look like you are thinking, over what they just said, this is something which gives you opportunity to break what was happening before, and also gives you enough space so you don't overshoot it, so you don't start talking when they still have something to say. And maybe, you know, like during this phase, they will get even more stuff out. And this is actually very good. But how do we get to that part of not killing them, right? Or not then exploding and starting to yell at them again? So the best one of the best tools for me personally is to look at the situation from the third perspective, right? So I am not responsible for anything. I am here like a lawyer, right? So lawyer has to listen to one side and to other side and needs to somehow then choose the best solution, right? So you are listening to him, you are not thinking about like, oh, what did I do? How did I mess up? And what's going on? You are really looking at the situation like, okay, focus on what he's saying and trying to understand what he's actually saying, right? So this is where we are getting to the part where we ask ourselves like how we can understand them. So how can I understand somebody who is right now blaming stuff on me, yelling at me and accusing me of stuff? So in this case, a lot of times people tend to like be quiet, as I said, nod their head and just look around, right? Like, yes, I understand. This is the worst thing. The worst thing what you can do in this situation is actually not to listen to the person, because then you don't know how to react, and also you cannot know what they actually wanted to say. And this is essentially the goal where you want to get, because when the person is talking from emotion, there is something behind it. There is a real reason why they are in that emotional state. And a lot of times, I guarantee you, a lot of times it's not that big of a deal. They are just feeling it that way at that moment. And you need to really understand what happened. Like, it might have been the combination of bad stuff. So he had a fight with his wife, then his dog got ran over by a car, and then he came to work and you messed up something on production and he will just get it out on you. Okay, so this can also happen. So maybe he just needs to blow off some steam, but you still need to listen to him. So this is where active listening is very important. And what active listening is, that you are actually focusing on that person and hearing them the whole time. So no distractions, no phone, no notifications. Just focus on them and what they are saying. Don't focus on the emotional parts. So like when when you literally like hear like, oh, how bad, and words like bad, worse, and this kind of stuff, that's not really important. You are trying to essentially, like detective or like the lawyer, trying to figure out like what is behind it and what they actually want to say. What are they complaining about? They are not complaining about that your team sucks. They are complaining about that something is not working. So listen to that, like what is not working. And essentially here you can use the so you are focusing on words, not emotions. And here you can use another tool which you have at your disposal, and that is reframing. Reframing is when you look at the situation, or you essentially look at it from completely different angle, right? So you have the same picture, but you have different frame. So if he is looking at the situation from some perspective, and you need to figure out the perspective where you can understand what he is saying, but it doesn't influence you emotionally, because it's enough that there is already one person emotional during that conversation, right? So let's say he is saying like, oh, the production is the worst, we have so many bugs and like, what does it mean that there are so many bugs, right? What is worst release we had ever yet, right? So all this stuff is very uncertain, not specific, and this is where you can actually start asking questions. And this is one of your best tools that you will have during the conversation. So when the customer is done talking and you are actively listening to him, then you probably have an idea what he wants to say. But you cannot assume, right? Like you cannot say like, oh, it's this way, it's that way. No. Here you can essentially use phrases like, if I understand you correctly, you meant this and that, right? And when you start asking the questions, then the person is able to elaborate on stuff which they already said. But if you want them also to start hearing you, then you need to do even more, and which is that they need to themselves feel heard. So like when you want somebody to listen to you, the same thing also the other person wants. And if nobody starts ever, then the conversation will not lead anywhere, and the person which will be usually in the better position as far as the power goes, and they will win the conversation because they will be angry, they will leave because they know that they can do it, they can afford it, and then you are left with everything messed up. So what helps in these kind of situations is validating the other person and emotional labeling. What emotional labeling is that you specifically label the emotion which he is going through. So I understand that you are frustrated. I would be as well, right? So I just labeled his emotion that he feels frustrated, and that and validating his feeling that I would feel the same way if I was you, or I also feel frustrated. So like empathy. So I can emphasize with him because I understand that it's frustrating. It's also frustrating for me. Like me, I also don't want bugs on production. I also don't want to deal with issues, right? So once I understand the situation better after asking questions and being a little bit quiet and thinking about it, then I can really say like, now I understand you. Like I know why you're frustrated. I understand why you are angry. You are angry, and I understand it. And this is the point where he got the emotion out. He got it labeled, so he knows what he's feeling. He doesn't need the emotion to go out again or more, because he knows what was happening, and he knows that you understand him. And we all want to feel understood. So when you are when this is so classical, like also in normal relationships. So one is trying to say something, another one is trying to say something, and they're just fighting because nobody is listening. And then it ends that they are not talking with each other, or somebody is sleeping on the couch, right? It's the same at work. So the customer really needs to feel heard, validated, and then he will finally start to listen to you. And then obviously you can continue with asking more questions, because once he feels validated, then he will elaborate more and more. And what did we just do? We just went from the unconscious mind, from the emotional state, from everything which he has in himself, in his beliefs, how he thinks that things should be, how he thinks that it should work, and how they should not work, and how he feels right now. We went from all of this to him feeling heard, him feeling understood. And then when we continue asking questions, like, okay, so then let's elaborate on this. So what do you think that could help? Or do you, so I don't know, like other logical questions which relate to that specific situation. Now you are finally getting him to the conscious logical thinking, right? So, and this is where you wanted to have him the whole time. Now he is listening to you, he is listening to your questions, and trying to then go more in depth and understood. And the more questions you ask, the more you let him talk in this already logical state, not emotional one, the further the emotion that he went through is going to be, right? And then the whole time you were asking yourself, you know the technical problem, Jesus Christ, like let's just push it and do a hotfix, right? The whole time I know what I should do, so can I finally do it, right? It really doesn't matter that you knew it all along, because what matters is how they feel, how they felt. And even though if you would at the beginning say like, I will just stop talking or whatever, and yes, of course, I will just fix it. Give me half an hour or 2 hours, and it will be fixed on production. That's not the problem. He feels certain ways. He feels frustrated. He needs to get the emotion out. He needs to feel validated, understood, and then he starts to listen to the reason. And what is important in this step, and what also helps so much, is that if they feel included in the final decision. So here you can ask him, you can tell him like, okay, so now when we understand each other, when we understand the situation, what was happening, and so on, what do you think that could be the good solution? Oh, okay, I understand. Yes, that's actually true. And what about if we also did this and that? And then in the end, you can frame, again, use the framing to highlight how you together in collaboration came to that solution. So you can essentially repeat in the end, okay, good. So I'm happy actually that I understand what was going on and also where the problem lies. So let's recap what actually we can do right now to improve the situation. So you actually suggested that we should do this and that, and also I think that we can also do A, B, C, D, and so on. And you together then came to the solution, and you can even close it like, you know what, like I feel actually good about this. I think that this was very important talk, and that we had to have this, and now we know what to do better. And it's these kind of situations that actually build the respect. So a lot of people are scared of them, a lot of people don't like them. But in reality, the person which is in emotion is the one which is losing, right? Because they are losing the control, they don't know how to act properly. But imagine, like, if whatever the customer thought about you before, if he was the whole time emotional, angry, he yelled at you, he told you whatever he thinks about you, about your team, about your crappy product, right, which you were developing, like, you stood there like a champion, and not only you were quiet and acted like you listened to him, you actively listened, you didn't get angry, you understood what is his problem, you validated him, then you came to conclusion which is great for both of you. You included him in the solution, and then you are moving on. Like, imagine the amount of respect which you get at that point when he realizes after that call, like, oh, you know what, like that guy like was able to handle the situation. Maybe they will even think about it like, when you are not angry, when you are not giving somebody back the negative emotion, and you are able to take it and turn it around, like you are sometimes you are even thinking back like, maybe I shouldn't have been that much angry, or maybe I shouldn't have said that. So he's essentially in the weaker position, right? Because he could not handle himself, but you not only can handle yourself but also him. And this gives you a huge boost in respect, and the next time something happens, he will trust you that you are able to solve it. So what do I do in these situations? I use silence, I use active listening, I use reframing of the situation to show a different angle and repeat what essentially the person said. So, but a little bit differently, the story, so he sees it maybe from a different situation. I use emotional labeling, validation, and including him in the final solution. And this is really how you build great relationships with your customer. So I would also like to include one last tip, which is very important when things get very, very bad. So if it gets really bad, like if you know beforehand that you and your team messed up so much that like he will for sure be super pissed. Like it's costed him a lot of money and the feature will not work or something like that. What you can do, and this obviously takes balls, so you have to come to the call or to the meeting and tell him, look, what I'm about to tell you will make you very angry. I know that I will look like idiot, and I know that you will be very, very angry at me. The situation is bad, but I want to be honest with you, and I want to tell you what happened. What you just did is that you, before he had any chance to go through any emotion, you already labeled it. So he doesn't have to go through emotion to actually find out how he feels. He's ready to receive the worst news in his life, right? Like, the whole code was deleted or something, and we don't use Git. But then he has opportunity to not go into the unconscious part, but focus then more on the reasoning. And this helps in a lot of situations also when you when you are in negotiations or whatever. Like if the conversation starts with a strong emotional message and you help them to identify the emotion, they don't have to go through them. They will maybe look at you like this at the beginning, but then they will just be more ready, and I think that you will be able to handle the situation a little bit better. So thank you very much for listening, and now it's time for your questions and for some answers. So let's go to in here. Wait, is this the Q&A? Did somebody write any questions in the Q&A already or not?
In progress. Give me a second. Or I can ask you like this if it's
yes,
possible.
you can. Okay, so then
How to deal with the client who is not a technical person, and he thinks that he can suggest you something, and it's not a part of his job or his knowledge, and this person in front of the other person's looks very stupid, but you should still not allow him. You cannot say that no, it's not true. You should somehow handle the situation correctly.
Yes. So the situation is that the customer is trying to look, for example, technical, even though he is not, right?
Yes, exactly.
And you know what he's saying that doesn't make too much sense, but you have to somehow respectfully go through this situation. So in these situations and in every situation, you have to think about like, what is your goal, right? Is your goal to tell him that he's wrong? Probably not, right? Your goal is to solve the situation. So with this kind of a mindset, when you go to every situation, we will immediately eliminate telling him that he's wrong or that it's stupid or that he should not discuss with us technical implementation because we are the expert, right? So that will for sure not help. What I would say, what I would try to think about it and maybe elaborate on what he's saying. So did I understand you correctly that you mean this and that? And maybe try to, if you have an idea of how the technical solution should look like, he for sure knows, or like in some capacity knows that he is probably not the expert, right, in this topic. And so when you know where it should go, obviously you need to think about what he just said. So it looks like that, yes, you are actually, even though you know right away that it doesn't make sense, you have to look like you care and that you really want to think about this idea. And then you can be like, okay, that's an interesting thought. So did you mean this and that? And with the question, you can start to guide him towards the right direction. And even though, let's say he will not go for that, right? So he will be like, no, that's not what I meant. I meant this, and then you can ask, okay, so does this then solve the situation? And if so, how does it solve it? And then he will describe it to you. Technically, you can say, okay, if it's unreasonable, not implementable, or something like that, you are still not agreeing to do it the way that he said. But what you can do is that you can listen to him and like, okay, so you would do it this way and that way. Okay, I understand. That's interesting. What if we, and now you can also suggest your part. What if we did this and that? Like it would be more efficient in the aspect of, I don't know, time or money or resources. And then you can essentially include him in a part of the decision where he will say like, oh yeah, actually that's a good idea. So you need to go a little bit slowly away from the crazy idea which he said, like, I don't know, implementing like including some tag within your website will solve all the SEO issues that you have everywhere or something like that, or using some kind of, oh, let's use AI to respond to all our users, right? And you'll be like, oh my god, that's such a great idea. So you can be like, okay, so what would happen if we implement the AI to talk with our customers? Well, they can get responses all the time. That would be actually pretty cool if I as a user obviously get the answer right away. What would happen, because like AI can also make mistakes and it's just generating just next word which is most probably the answer. What would happen if it's wrong? Okay, he didn't thought about that. Then maybe what we can do is think about the way how we can implement this so it's more safer. So do you have any other idea what we can do? And then he might say like, actually no, I can see the problem with that. And this is the point where I can suggest like, okay, so there are actually some solutions which partially offer the AI support, where you can maybe like define certain ways about your company, but it will always only choose one of the answers. And if it's wrong, then the customer can still choose to write you a message or talk with the real person. Okay, now he feels included in the solution. Obviously, it doesn't solve everything. And then you can discuss with him like how much time it will take. And usually you will find out that there's never time to implement this idea, right? So you don't even have to worry about it. But you have to bring it to the realms of reality and somehow then go through the discussion, and the customer still needs to be heard, because in reality he's paying for it, right? Like, and again, like when you are talking with somebody, we have a lot of times we have this tendency to assume like, oh, like he just wants control over the project, or he just wants this and that. But if you look at each conversation as like, oh, this guy, he wants to help, like he wants to find solution. He's doing his best, he has the best with his knowledge, the best with his skills. Then suddenly the situation doesn't look that bad, right? But if you look at it like, oh, he's talking into my work, he's talking about something which he doesn't understand, then again, you are going out of your reasonable thinking and you are letting your emotion to go out and influence the whole decision making. You can piss off the customer. You can say something which will trigger him. You can break the relationship. But he just needs to feel heard, understood. And when you look at it from the perspective where he only wants to do something good, something nice, something positive, then I think that this kind of point of view is very constructive. Okay, I can also take a look again if there are any questions. Did you take a weapon to the worst meeting? The best weapon you can have is that how you can handle yourself. So that's your best weapon. So really, if you can handle your emotions, then you are in the control of the whole conversation. The other person is just losing, because once they are in the emotion, you can influence them to the direction where you need them to go. So this is your best weapon which you can have during these kind of conversations. Yes, Nicoletta?
Is it safe to interpret their emotions? I mean, in a way, because I know it's done with babies. You name, because they don't have the
Yes.
capacity. But I can imagine that if you told a woman, "Oh, I know you're angry," if she wasn't angry, she's going to be angry after this point.
Okay. Did you guys hear that online? Because I have mic here.
Not really. If it's
Okay,
possible,
so Nicoletta
repeat
is
it, please.
asking if it's really safe to label those emotions, to tell the customer how they feel, because what if they don't feel a certain way? She gave example, like if she as a woman, I will tell her that you are angry, and she doesn't want to hear that, right? So okay, let's assume you are the customer, and I will tell you like, I understand that you are angry, and you will say like, I'm not angry, right? I'm not angry. What are you talking about? Then what you do is, then the next sentence will be, I am frustrated, or I am disappointed. And you got the information which you needed, right? Now you're like, okay, now I get it. Now I understand what's going on with you. And that's the most important part. So yeah, let him be pissed a little bit more. What does it do, right? Like, he's already angry. So I may as well piss off my wife a little bit more, but at least I know what she's thinking. So yes. So I think that you cannot go wrong with really labeling the emotion. Does that work for you? Yeah? Okay. So other questions? Feel free to ask about situations. Yeah?
Okay, so let's imagine that something like we had in our function.
Actually, you know what? I will give you a mic, just so guys can hear you. 1 second. There you go. Can you hear him now?
Can you hear me? Hey, hey.
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, so let's imagine that something that we had in our fun channel, that it would happen to us, that the developers would forget to upload their code on GitHub and 3 months work is gone. How would you communicate it with the customer who don't know what happened? And also, how would you communicate it with your colleagues? Would it lead to some fire this guy, or you know what I mean?
Okay.
I mean, because customer don't know what does it mean to push the code on GitHub and 3 months work is gone. So how would you handle this situation? You didn't read the fun channel? Read the fun channel Slack. You understand.
Okay. So what would I do if the customer, all his code is gone? He doesn't need to understand why, right? Like, he wants to understand obviously why, but he doesn't understand the technical part of it. And what would I do with the team? So those are two separate questions, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So if I hear something like this is just completely extreme, like 3 months of work is gone down the drain, right? Then rather than reacting in that moment, I would be like, okay, thank you for letting me know this information. And I will get back to you, because it's really, this is something which triggers the high emotion. You don't want to now, I don't know, like, hurt a person. They know they messed up very bad, right? Like, they probably, like, every one of us made mistakes, and we will make them even more. But you know that one time when every one of us was probably in that point where they didn't push the code, and then it was gone, and they're like, you were like, I'm such an idiot, like, week of my work is completely gone, like, how could I have done this? And then you never do it again, because it's such a hard thing to experience that you really don't want it to happen again. So you as a leader during this situation, you like, what is your first, like, what is then what is your intention, right? So that's the best question you can always ask yourself to start with. Like, what is my intention? Is my intention to now hurt you as an engineer, like not as an engineer, as a person, like to attack you, how stupid you are, how incompetent you are, how could you done this, right? Like you already feel like shit probably. So this is not my intention, right? Your intention should be focused on solving the situation, right? So my first question would be, okay, team, if I don't know how to solve it, right? Because you don't always know how to solve it. How do you have any suggestions how we can do this? And then one guy will be like, oh, we can, okay, so maybe what we can do is like to tell the customer that yes, we had some problem with really with the code, and it just didn't work or something. We had to throw it out of the window, like to not look like complete idiots, but still tell him the truth that the code is gone. And then we can somehow, how can we mitigate this situation? So how can we get out of it? So maybe the person will tell you that, look, I'm so sorry, like I will work over the weekend and catch up on those 2 days. And like highly motivated person who messed up so much can do in 2 days much more than a normal person can do in 1 week. So maybe they can get to the point where they will compensate for at least part of it, right? And then you will come to the customer, I don't know, like next Tuesday. He has the whole weekend to catch up on some stuff. He has 2 days to finish some things. Obviously, you will not give him some tasks. Thankfully, that's what sprints are for and story points are for. Sometimes something takes longer. Sometimes some things just go wrong, which in this case did. And then you can be on the Tuesday like, okay, look, we had a problem with the application. I don't want to lie to you. Really, like this means that this feature like will not be delivered in on Friday like we agreed in the prod publish. And he will be like, okay, so why? What's going on? Yeah, we had just the problem with the code. It's, I don't know if it's gone or what do you will say? Maybe you will say that the code was just not up to the quality, and we just had to redo it. You can say we just had to redo it. There was a problem, and we really had to redo the whole code, right? You don't have to go to details. The focus is now on what is the solution, right? So now, if you don't want customer to be more pissed than he already was, then you already need to come to that meeting with the solution. So you can be like, okay, so we had a problem with the code. I'm really sorry, the feature will not be delivered until Friday. We had to rework everything, but we are working extra. So now customer needs to also understand that you understand the gravity of the situation and what are you willing to do to actually compensate it, right? So now we are working extra hard. Like, look, I don't know, Philip, he is working over the weekend to catch up on this feature. It will be delivered next week. It will take a little bit more time, but we already have the solution in place. Unfortunately, this is all I can do right now, right? And yes, it's bad situation. Yes, it's crappy. Maybe this is where the teamwork, and again, like, look, if I as a leader will start to attack you, right? And then how does the whole team look at you? Like, apart that you feel bad and you don't feel like a good engineer, the whole team looks at you like, oh, this guy, right? But if you handle the situation correctly, like, okay, so let's focus how we can fix this, then everybody's thinking like, okay, so how can we fix this? How can we support him? And maybe they will be like, okay, so you know what, your task will take a little bit longer because you will little bit help this guy with this part of the code. And then another one will give you a hand, another one will give you a hand, and you will work over the weekend. And then we will catch up somehow. And you know what happens? Like after the worst situations, it is the worst situations where the team is built, where the team spirit is built, where the mindset, where the whole culture of the team or the company is built. So, and this is also where the trust with the customer is built. So if you are honest and you will tell them, like, look, we messed up, but we already have the solution on the way, and we will not charge you the extra time that our guys are working on, I will have to go to Marco and I will tell him like, oh, sorry, Marco, but maybe could we, for example, not charge Peter for 1 week as a compensation? You know, the customer may feel like this is the company. Like every company makes mistakes, every team makes mistakes, every person makes mistakes. But this company, when they make a mistake, they own up to it, they find a solution, and they even give me the discount. Like hell yeah, right? So it can be the worst situation in the world, but all you have to do is not act emotionally and think about like what is your goal, and this then teaches everyone in the team like how to approach situations. Yes, very good question. All right, any other questions?
Was there already a situation where all of your techniques didn't work?
Where what?
Where this process, how to feel, be less emotional, didn't work?
Yes. So there are times, obviously, the more you train these techniques, the better you get at them, right? Like I always, when the conversation starts or when some problem starts, I'm focusing on the goal. So like my goal is to fix this situation. My goal is to find a solution. That's all I'm thinking about the whole time. So it becomes like your default. And this is something like, this is similar like with kids. So when your parents acted certain way, it's funny because I never thought about this, but once I had kids, I caught myself at the moment that I was acting the same way as my parents did, and even though I didn't like it. And this is where you have to go back. You have to consciously control your unconscious beliefs or habits, right? And work on them hard to rewire your brain. But in the end, you can do it, right? And this is the same thing happens with this. So the more time you repeat it, the better you act. But yes, you can get into the situation where somebody will tell you something and you just cannot handle the emotion. Completely normal. Like first, you cannot blame yourself. We are all human and we all experience this kind of stuff. But the question is how you react. And if everything fails, if you really cannot handle the emotion, you can be like, thank you, I need to think about it, and leave the room. Like go somewhere else, scream in the pillow, cry, or just like call your wife and tell how much you hate this person and so on. Sleep on it 3 nights. I guarantee you that you will feel differently. Like, and you know, I think that the strongest relationships which I ever built were with people who I went through some shit. Really, where we had some tough situation and it was tough for us both emotionally, but then we went through it and you know it teaches you something about the other person. You understand them better, and this is the best thing in ever, really, because then you know how they act in those situations, you know how they handle those situations, you know that once you went through this with them, you will get through everything, which is just much less intensive, but also then probably also with something which is more intensive. So yeah, you can, all of these techniques can fail, but never allow you to get your emotion on the other person. You are losing control over the situation. You can hurt somebody. You will just be sorry for that later. And some things are hard to repair. Other questions? Somebody from the audience? Marcel, I know that you have questions and you've been waiting the whole time to ask it. Okay.
Yes, through the slide.
Sorry?
I already asked through the Slido.
Oh, really?
That was
Oh, really?
with the weapon.
That was you. Ah, I should have thought. Okay.
But I knew that you will answer it in a very nice way, not some killing spree.
Yes. Okay, so does anybody else have any question? If not, then thank you very much, and for being here, for being part of this meeting, and hope you liked it. It will be probably also uploaded on YouTube, right? So you can also go and watch it there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Wait, yes, I have something to say.
Oh, but
Yes,
wait, but
coming.
they will not hear you probably. Wait, I have to change the mic.
Okay.
Okay, wait. Building. Oh, he wanted to do this. I know him.
Can you hear us, guys?
Can you hear us now?
Yes.
Okay, and then I
Yeah.
also wanted to
Alan, what are you doing?
stop recording.